Hello, hello, aloha from Maui. This is Beat Coronavirus and Thrive Now with a little modification. Beat Coronavirus and Thrive with no vaccines now. Because we'll also be talking a little bit about that. Welcome, everyone. People are just starting to come on since I just got through pushing the button to go live on Facebook with this broadcast. We have some amazing things to share. First of all, I'd like to start out with doing a little bit of a share of a disclaimer, just to cover myself here. That this course is for educational purposes only. This is material. No information or interpretation or any part of this is to be used for diagnosis or treatment or anything that would normally require a license. There's no license required to teach, so we encourage you to consult both sides, as there seems to be a lot of opposition with health, opposition with life. Because of the nature of what discoveries we're sharing, anyone who uses any of the information taught must do so as the result of his or her own free agency. Okay, now let's make sure you got the screenshot of that. Let's see what we got here. I want to make sure you got that. And that what we're showing you here. This is where I'll spend most of the time on my presentation. I actually spoke this week again with another medical doctor who's pretty high up on the chain of having the governor's year here in Hawaii. I won't say who he is. I'm not going to list his name on this particular broadcast because I'm going to speak kind of exposing some of the weaknesses of the medical profession, what they've been taught, what they actually, more pointedly, what they have not been taught. And it's interesting. His knowledge obviously was lacking with what you see on this chart. And this is where I've spent most of my time explaining life and death, right here. And, the big vaccine debate, mainstream debate, is whether or not we're going to just take vaccines or just not take vaccines. What I have to share is a very strong position of not taking them. And then that's not all. It's not just about not taking them. It's not taking them while we're bringing the cells in the healthy environment that you see on the left dynamically, and while we're doing things that do that very effectively. And while your cells are on the left side there, your immune system, your lymphatic system, which really is your immune system, the white blood cells and lymphocytes, which are made up of white blood cells, are your best fighters. They have all of the things that they need to create the antibodies on demand without the need of vaccines at all. The fact that 99.8 whatever percent, that people actually have been shown to recover from the COVID-19 who have been exposed to it, that shows that we don't need the vaccine, doesn't it? Doesn't it show that we create our own antibodies as long as we have a strong enough constitution? And the people who die because of terminal inflammation, which is what you see on the left, on the right side, labeled disease. All of them have a terminal inflammation that they die from. They also, all of them have hypoalbuminemia. And I'm going to, let's go ahead and do another little quick share. I'm going to show you this egg here. Hold on a second. Let's go ahead and show you this. This is basically a single cell, a stem cell of a chicken in an egg that's been cracked open, and showing you what's around that egg is albumin and water. That is what we have around all of our cells. It's the same blood protein that we're talking about, is albumin. So, and that albumin level, as it gets trapped around the cells, it lowers the albumin content in the blood. You'd be surprised that medical doctors are not taught that. Again, medical doctors are not taught that. They don't know what's lowering the albumin levels in the blood. Even the people who specialize in it, who are given the billions of dollars that have been spent to solve the problem of lowered albumin levels, they know that if our albumin levels are 65 grams per liter, our average lifespan is 125 years. But if they drop down to only 55 grams per liter, then our average lifespan is only about 65 years instead of 125 years. It's an interesting thing. So, and from there, as they drop down, they're also a direct indicator, correlation to the deaths of COVID-19, regardless of comorbidity, which most of them have. That means they're dying of multiple things. So what you're seeing around this chicken egg is clear fluid. Looks kind of like water. In fact, all the clear fluids in the body are lymph fluid. That's the fluid around the cells. It's also, we have another set of vessels that's job is to continue to take that fluid and dump it back in the blood, because we constantly leak the whole albumin content every 24 hours is leaking out of the blood capillaries naturally, contrary to what Starling's hypothesis from the 1800s is saying, which is what is still being taught at Harvard. And the Starling's hypothesis says it doesn't leave at all. So we're going to focus in on this and what it means, because we're mostly lymph. If you look at the body, we're mostly water, and most of that is lymph fluid, right? Even the blood is 98% water and mostly held in the bloodstream by the albumin. And there's a couple other larger blood proteins, the fibrinogen and globulin, the largest. Even they can leave if you create a dilated blood capillary. But irregular non-dilated blood capillaries, they leak the whole albumin content every 24 hours. So this is really key, understanding this. And lifestyle, if we're a lazy person, we aren't activating our lymph vessels enough to keep us alive. One of the doctors that I talked to this week said he doesn't believe in doing anything to help the lymphatic system unless it's damaged. There isn't anything that he's been able to see in his career that says otherwise. So he doesn't believe in teaching people how their lifestyle affects life and death, as far as the lymphatic system's role, when we have deep breathing and bouncing, and when we're doing things that increase our energy levels, that it actually activates the lymphatic system to maintain and reestablish the healthy environment of the cells that we showed you right over here, this one on the left. So this is really important. Let's see if I can get this for you. I don't know if you're seeing this right. Here we go. So on the left, you're going to see this chart, again, is where I spend most of my time. On the left is a subpressure environment of the cells. On the right is a positive pressure blowout, more and more, the more that happens. And so the bloodstream cannot be responsible for maintaining or reestablishing the healthy environment, because the bloodstream is a positive pressure system. And the lymph vessels have to be what maintain and reestablish that. They are the subpressure set of vessels. They're lined with one-way check valves. And the bloodstream is also a two-way circulatory system, to and from the cells, while the lymphatic vessels are primarily a one-way circulatory system. They pull out the seepage, the whole albumin content again leaves every 24 hours, and they retrieve it back to the bloodstream, and they dump it back in the blood at the base of the neck. Right here and here, the subclavian vein. And that doesn't happen just automatically. Messing with my hair a little bit today, this headset. So that doesn't happen just automatically. The Something funky going on there. So in order to keep the albumin in water being dumped back in the bloodstream, it doesn't happen if we're being too lazy, okay? It doesn't happen if we are having a lot of stress in our lives. We can overwhelm it pretty easily. But the way to activate the lymphatic system dynamically is by being physically active. And I ask people, who was taught to work by the sweat of his brow all the days of his life? Do you know who that was? It's kind of funny. I don't know who finally put it, by the time it got to English, put it like that. But many of you are Bible fans, you'll probably say that was Adam. And I ask, who told him? And they say, well, that was God. And I say, are you sure that wasn't Eve? I'm sure she had her honeydew list. She probably told him every day, right? That was just a joke. But the fact is, how long have we been taught? As far back as we have records to show, we've been taught that we're supposed to be physically active. That also includes doing things that we enjoy doing, wholesome recreational activities that we may find fun to do, right? Doesn't have to be something that we don't enjoy. So we'll get into this. The bouncing on a mini trampoline is something that I will be demonstrating today. And the deep breathing first and then bouncing. They're the two key things that physically activate lymphatic vessels inside the body. When you take a deep breath, the lungs put pressure on the largest lymphatic vessel in the body. Let's go back to this chart again real quick, because here, with this diagram here, what we're showing you is that is a thoracic duct right here, right in the middle, right between the lungs. That's the largest lymphatic vessel in the body. And if you see where, as it comes up on both sides, there's the subclavian vein. It dumps back into the subclavian vein on both sides of the neck before it dumps right into the bloodstream. It has to come up through the thoracic duct to do that. And shallow breathing doesn't activate that. You know, the most sophisticated technology to demonstrate that, the very first time that that was demonstrated, was in 1979 at the International Congress of Lymphology. And my father, he had decided to show up for that one. And there was a man who had developed what is called lymphography, Dr. Jack Shields from California, Sacramento area. And he'd figured out that walking and running, he was showing, walking and running while a person was hooked up to the lymphography wasn't activating lymphatics even enough to keep the person alive. And this even shocked my father. My father, even the first writings that he'd already published, was really advocating just being, physical exercise. And his writings took a big shift after this presentation. He said he would have gone around the world 100 times just to see that done once. He and most all the doctors there, they'd all been taught that muscles activated lymphatics. And, this is really interesting that still today, they're not teaching that deep breathing activates lymphatics in any college, university, or medical school that I know of. And I'm talking about even Harvard. I'm talking about even Karolinska has been in one of the top 10 medical schools of the world for many, many years. They don't talk about it. They don't get into anything on what we can do by ourselves to put the albumin in water, to take them from being trapped around the cells and creating that disease environment. Every itis means inflammation, and the word tumor means to swell. They're not saying anything on how to get that from the disease environment back to the spaces around the cells. Let's show you also, screen share again. If you do a search on hypoalbuminemia and coronavirus, let's just go ahead and refresh this search that you're seeing here. This is pubmed.gov. They have a search bar that you can type in any keywords you want. And with hypoalbuminemia and coronavirus, let's see, yes, it's still the same one at the top. There's 24 results that show up. And says low albumin levels are associated with poor outcomes in case series of COVID-19 patients in Spain, a retrospective cohort study. Let's show this one. This one, if you do if you do COVID-19 and hypoalbuminemia, let's go back so we can show you what we did, just COVID. This comes up at the top of the list with 19 results. So let's go back to it. It says hypoalbuminemia predicts the outcome of COVID-19 independent of age and comorbidity, meaning if they're dying of more than one thing. In fact, hypoalbuminemia has been associated with a lot of people dying from a lot of diseases, right? Anytime there's a lot of inflammation happening in the body, you'll find this because it's directly associated with a lot of that inflammation. It's why that albumin level is dropping. It's why people's lifespans are being decreased. Also, they're getting literally locked when the life process shuts off, which is the sodium potassium pump generates electrical energy. It's the engine. When it shuts off, the energy comes out, the blood proteins lock. And that's discovery 6 of the 7 golden discoveries my father taught 200 cities a year. And discovery 7 is when we bring that energy back in, they unlock. I want to draw your attention to this last line here. In conclusion, hypoalbuminemia is associated with the outcome of COVID-19. The potential therapeutic value of albumin infusion in COVID-19 should be further explored at the earliest. Now, I want to draw a big red flag around that very last sentence in that paragraph. It's great. The second to last sentence, in conclusion, hypoalbuminemia is associated with the outcome of COVID-19. Perfect. But what their solution has always been for hypoalbuminemia is, and they've spent billions of dollars into this the past few decades, since Ken Seaton, who is an expert on albumin, showed that the higher the albumin levels are, the healthier we are in general. It's a basic marker, and its correlation to death by diseases. They found that increasing the albumin level just by dumping synthetic albumin in the blood hasn't helped. It's just killed people faster. It increases the mortality rate, meaning it kills people faster. That's all it's done. And they haven't figured out why. That's because there's a huge chunk of science that has been kept away from the medical community. That's right. There's a huge pieces of the puzzle that are missing. And even with that chunk of science, I'm not saying that I have all be all of all the science on this. I'm not saying that it's all done by any means, but this particular science has been the passion of my life, my entire life, the science that I'm sharing with you. And I'm just giving you the basic scratch of the surface of the surface. We're not going to have time to get very deep with you on this. I've gotten into this about 19 minutes so far. I plan on giving you a instant mass healing activation, no matter where you are in the world, especially if you're listening to this presentation live. It should be fairly easy for you to be able to accept this with just an intention of accepting the activation that I'm going to be doing in about another 20 minutes. I got to dangle the carrot, help enough of you, help you increase. Also, share this live with all your friends, anybody who you think may benefit from it. I'm known for doing instant mass healings. It's actually one of my .coms is instantmasshealing.com. I also have another really important one for the topic of this presentation called MaskHypnosis.com. And it sort of sounds like mass hypnosis, right? But it's not. But it's meant to sound similar. It's MASK, MaskHypnosis.com. So, yeah, I'd like to share a little bit of that with you right now. In fact, let's do a quick screen share of what a little bit of that looks like. The links page is really loaded with, let's go ahead and I'm gonna refresh this, see if I've lost any, because every once in a while, This link changed to alt censored. That's where they put a lot of videos that have been censored, that they don't want people to know about, that have been banned by Facebook and YouTube. And I also have had a lot of success with taking several of those, and they've ended up being republished down here at the bottom. Oh my goodness, they took off 4 of the videos that I had put up that had been reposted by different people. And between last night and today, they took off actually 4, again, between last night and today. So this is an interesting, it's interesting. This one's really important, the #1 crime. And this one is really important when it comes to literally mass hypnosis with using hydrogel and vaccines. And, you know, there's another page that is on vaccines. And Bill Gates is shown here telling on himself that since 2005, he's debriefing the CIA in this video, talking about how he's creating viruses that can target genes and lower the expression of genes that are responsible for dominant behavior and spiritual beliefs, certain spiritual beliefs and behaviors. So I wonder how many professional athletes want to sign up for that. Like how many Olympic athletes and other high performance minded people want to raise their hand for, you know, whatever they've cooked up for us with this pandemic. Talking about things, you know, there's some really key information. This person is really an important video for you to watch on the same topic. So viruses, basically not living organisms, you get here. Anyway, my last week presentation is also there. A lot of my replays are on the links page too. So I just wanted to share that with you really quick. And let's get right back to the healthy disease environment that I like to share as my favorite screen. Because if you can understand this, this is the key of what we're talking about here. And if you can understand this, the basics of it even, it's worth 10 million plus to you, in my opinion. And if I can help you understand this, it will take you out of what I call the medical dark ages. So I've got an audio also on my website, Zero Disease site, called From the Medical Dark Ages to Zero Disease. You know, there's also one of those videos is that you can go to alt censored and find, because they don't rely on YouTube or Facebook to share their videos, is the America's Frontline Doctors. There's a senator that was also helping introduce those doctors, I believe, from South Carolina. And, you know, it's been something they haven't wanted people to hear. There was a Black woman nicknamed Warrior who is there sharing her passion about, you know, hydrochloric, whatever. I don't even know the names of, I know zinc. Okay. I don't even want to try to pronounce the other things, but there's 3 things that she's had 100% success with over 350 people that she's personally treated. None of them have died. And she says they all got better very quickly, and none of them died. And she says there's a cure. I'm careful the way I use the word cure. I think it's a sort of an illusion. A lot of people don't know the definition of the word cure has sort of changed over time. It might be why who knows? It's not what it was in Bible times. Let's put it that way. Today, people are thinking that there's going to be some magic bullet pill that they can take that will wipe out all their problems. And I can tell you, looking at the right side, if there was a pill that could help do that, it's got to be a NRF2 activator, I think. And the NRF2 activation technology, if you type that into PubMed, NRF2, there's 16,000 plus studies now that'll show up on NRF2. And that's in a relatively short period of time. It's happened over mostly the past 5 years, most of those studies. And, you know, peer reviews are typically, they take 5 to 10 years to produce. So if that gives you any idea on what a big focus it's become in medical science, I've been on the technology the past 10 years also. And I know what my own personal experience is on it. But let's just say all the drugs of the past target 1 out of really 5,000 disease mechanism genes. And NRF2 is a protein we're born producing that does all 5,000. It does it without any of the negative effects of the drugs. And the best formulas are just herbal formulas. So Dr. McCord formulas. I'm going to show, might as well show a little bit of this. I'll say 3,000 on my slide, and that's just being very conservative. It's really 3,000 to 5,000 according to the world's largest gene database. It's up to 5,000. But to be conservative, we could talk about 3,000 genes that are regulated by NRF2. And let's go ahead and make sure you can see this one. So NRF2 regulates all of them. Only the drugs have done 1 out of those 3,000 to 5,000, right? And let's show you. Hold on. The ORAC scale. Let me give you an example of what 30 of those 3,000 genes do. They're super antioxidant enzymes like superoxide dismutase or SOD. And everything based on the ORAC scale is a 1-to-1 ratio. And then it's depleted, meaning it's used up and you got to start over. So what does it mean when we have SOD is able to get rid of 1 million per second every second without being depleted? What does that mean? Well, here's a little bit of an example. You know, this is an Acai bottle. Can you see what the ORAC rating is there? 3,900 per bottle. Well, for the sake of argument, if it's a 1-to-1 ratio, that means if all of those 3,900 are able to get in through the digestive tract into your bloodstream where they actually access the cells or wherever the free radicals are, wherever they need to be, they can eliminate up to 3,900 free radicals. But if you have say 100 trillion cells in your body, 70 to 100 trillion, depending on who you talk to. If they cycle once, you just produce 70 to 100 trillion free radicals each time they cycle, just from the superoxide alone. I'm not even talking about hydrogen peroxide and other free radicals that our cells produce from the normal life process, from using hydrogen and oxygen. And let's say the one from oxygen is called superoxide. And the first thing that was ever discovered about this was the discovery of superoxide dismutase by a man named Dr. Joe McCord. And might as well show you. Here's myself with Dr. Joe McCord. And he is called, basically, he's considered the father of the whole free radical theory, the one who invented it. And people, anytime they're talking about oxidative stress, that's what it is. It's caused by the free radicals. So carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide are the same type of chemicals a combustion engine produces. And if you're not producing the super antioxidant enzymes, you look at the left of that, that's like an exhaust. It causes damage. It gums things up. When you're producing the super antioxidant enzyme like superoxide dismutase, where it's able to reconvert 1 million per second per molecule of superoxide dismutase, each molecule can convert 1 million superoxides per second back to oxygen. It helps clean up the whole system. So I use the photo before and after as an example of what's going on inside the body to clean it up. And it gives white blood cells and lymphocytes, helps restore their capability to literally clean up the body safely, where you don't have autoimmune happening, where they're shooting out the superoxide. They actually accelerate their life process, which utilizes oxygen, and they shoot out the superoxide like a laser gun to dissolve the cancer and the bad guys. Let's go ahead and, I got to make sure you're seeing this correctly. Let's help you get this. The white blood cells and lymphocytes when their life processes are turned on with oxygen, they shoot out the superoxide like a laser gun that dissolves the cancers, viruses, bacteria. They can destroy all of them very quickly. Now, their other laser gun is supposed to shoot out the superoxide dismutase to reconvert, again, 1 million of those per second per SOD molecule back to oxygen. This is the most powerful oxygen therapy I've ever heard of. If you know math, you can understand the power of the numbers. It's very powerful. Whereas the ORAC scale is a 1-to-1 ratio and then depleted. Let's come back here. So again, this is 3,900 ORAC rating. That means it can get rid of up to 3,900 free radicals. What does that do for all the free radicals we produce in a whole day? It's like taking this and dumping it in the ocean, expecting to make a difference in the volume of the ocean, if you know the math. So let's even say this. Let's take it a different way. Let's say, what if this has 100,000 ORAC rating? Ooh, that's like right off the ORAC charts. 100,000. Then what? That means it can get rid of up to 100,000 free radicals, right? If it has a chance to get in the system. Well, you would only have to drink 100 per second to keep up with 1 molecule of superoxide dismutase. Just to help put things in perspective, okay? So superoxide dismutase, very powerful. I have a lot more that I can talk about of the power of the science, because this is just one out of really 3,000 to 5,000 different ways that NRF2 activation helps the body become more efficient in solving the problems. And it changes the way we solve our health problems forever. Where all the drugs of the past have targeted 1 out of 3,000 to 5,000, this does all 3,000 to 5,000. If those other bigger numbers were too much for you to conceive, which I got to admit, I think they're too big for most people to really wrap their head around, I think that, you know, understanding 1 out of the 5,000 versus all 5,000 is something that you could wrap your head around a lot easier. If that's all you can do, it's 5,000 times more efficient than any of the drugs of the past. And one of those happens to be TMPRSS2, which is required for all the coronaviruses and other influenzas to attach to the ACE2 receptor site. They can't even do it without the TMPRSS2 protein. And NRF2 activation is the biggest inhibitor of that protein. But we can't guarantee that the best NRF2 activation product out there will prevent 100% of that happening. And we may not want to prevent 100% of that happening. So when it does get into the cell, it creates a cytokine storm. It helps really draw attention to for our immune system to create antibodies to go solve the problem. If there's too much inflammation, then guess who wins? The virus. That's what people die of, is the terminal inflammation, which again is directly associated with hypoalbuminemia, meaning low albumin, because it gets trapped around the cells and it's the main water magnet. So I hope you're learning a few different things, a few new things today about how that works. One of the things I want to say about the America's Frontline Doctors video that a lot of people saw, millions of people have seen that within the past few days. One of the things that I want to say is they're accusing this, I call her Warrior, I go by her nickname. One of the things this medical doctor has been accused of, people even say, you know, she's from Nigeria, they practice voodoo in Nigeria. Who knows about what her, well, I've lived in Africa. And I know that the African doctors that I've got to know while I was in Africa are some of the brightest doctors I've ever had a chance to meet. Some of the most they really know more of the science. They're really some of the highest caliber doctors I've ever met in my life. And so I actually learned how to speak Mandela's language while I was there. This comment against the Warrior lady. They also said, hey, she says that they're making vaccines out of alien tissue. Well, let me ask you a question. Is rotting human fetuses, would you call that alien to your body if that's what they're making vaccines out of? Or how about this, rotting horse blood? Or how about just rotting egg albumin? Because those three things are things that they've been known to use to create vaccines with. And they want to dump that, which does contain DNA from that, into your body. They're using mice that are now infused with human DNA. It's like a human in a mouse. They're creating alien creatures they're alien because we've never seen anything like that before. And what have we done to stop it? Well, it's interesting. Why have they been allowed to continue to do this? I think that is a good question. And why accuse Warrior for speaking the actual truth on that point, that they are using alien tissue to create vaccines with? It's alien to our body. It's not how our body is designed to solve the problem. And I tell you, the white blood cells and lymphocytes, they can produce the antibodies on demand. You don't need to take immunizations or vaccines to build up antibodies. When they immunize a child, when a child's born, we've seen the pictures of this. We know all of them have their lymph nodes blow out with that inflammation. That causes also something called integrative damage. It weakens their constitution of their very immune system, of what makes them who they are and what they are and how well they're going to be able to handle problems in the future. Problems like cancer, which are, the word tumor comes from its Latin origin, tumere, which means to swell. Same thing, swelling, inflammation. You can't have either one without the trapped blood proteins. So yes, the trapped albumin primarily, and if you have enough of the fear dilates the blood capillaries, so even the larger ones can leave. And the albumin, smaller one, can leave much faster with fear. If they have people wearing masks, in my opinion, it lowers the oxygen level in the blood, increases the acidity. Hypoxia is one of the things that you got to watch out for. It's the name of a medical condition. You know, if you do lower the oxygen levels, which we know over a long enough period of time, especially, you test your oxygen levels in your blood after a 10-hour shift, for example, they're going to be lower. And how long do you have to get on pure oxygen just to bring your oxygen levels up to what they were? And that whole period that they were lower, what does that mean for life processes that were struggling, for damage that may have been taking place, regardless of whether you get on pure oxygen to raise the level of oxygen in your blood again? These are questions that I think you should be asking, because these are things that mainstream media hasn't been talking about. And do you think it's easier to hypnotize people with brain damage? And how do they know they've got brain damage? How do they know they're having memory loss? How do they know what they don't know? Let me share another slide for you of a man who having some fun here. I consider this fun. I have this under, here we go. I have this one for you. There's Marshall Silver. He's a world-renowned hypnotist. In Las Vegas, he's had a show called the World's Greatest Hypnotist Show for many years. And he says education, training, and hypnosis, they're all the same. And everything is hypnosis. The mask hypnosis, you know, even wearing a mask, I think is hypnosis. And when they finally caught, I got to say this, this is one of the topics right now of Donald Trump wearing a mask. They finally caught him wearing a mask for the very first time when he was, they put it out in the media. Look, why? Because if he does it, that means you got to do it, right? Is that true? Well, in a recent interview between him and a Fox News reporter, he says, no, he does not think that mandatory mask wearing should be something that we should implement at all. Because why? Because he doesn't believe in it. That's directly out of the mouth of Donald Trump. And there's a video on that you can find at maskhypnosis.com, a short version that's like only 4 minutes long, where you can go get the truth on that. from Donald Trump himself. But how many of the mainstream news media outlets are going to rebroadcast that? The true view of Donald Trump on that issue. Got to be careful what we do because it sends a signal of what others may do. And how can it be having anything to do with 5G if the masks can help us? One of the things I say is that, I saw somebody's post a picture responding to someone who is against wearing masks, at least against the mandatory mask wearing for everybody. And he shares a picture, and in the first upper left corner, it has a man peeing on a man, neither of them having pants on, and says, look, in this example, the man who is getting peed on gets peed on quite a bit, a lot, the most. And in the other example, it shows another picture of the man peeing on the guy, and the guy's wearing jeans. It says the jeans prevent a lot of the pee from getting on him, but he still gets wet. And then in the third picture, it shows the man who's trying to pee on the guy wearing jeans also. And when he pees, the pee only gets on himself. And he says, this is why, they use that as the example of why everyone should be wearing masks. And I responded to that. And I said, look, the air is not as thin as it looks. We have more microbes in the air that we breathe than there is in the mud. And even the cigarette filter doesn't filter out everything. Even so, the N95 doesn't filter it all out, especially when you got something the size of a piece of RNA that's even smaller than bacteria. It's airborne. It's not limited by the droplets or by peeing. But I tell you what, and most of those microbes that we're breathing in through the air, we have a symbiotic relationship that the white blood cells and lymphocytes can't even function without. I mentioned, NRF2 activation. If you really want to protect yourself, limit the production of TMPRSS2, abbreviation of the protein that the viruses have to affect us. But anyway, also it regulates the cytokine storm and all the anti-inflammatory proteins, which is actually what all the people who die, what they die from. So the thing is, I said, if you really want to insist on peeing your pants, do it first thing in the morning. At least that way, your urine has the highest levels of stem cells. So at least you'll be getting that benefit. If you insist on peeing your pants. So I hope a lot of you find this kind of humorous. The fact is that the science that they say we should wear masks are based on droplets, exhaling droplets. And unfortunately, most of the science that is showing that they hadn't worked is because the masks are not limited by the droplets. That's the point. So in that case, they first, when the first news came that this could be transmitted by humans, it really threw up a big red flag when all three people in the same household ended up getting sick from this coronavirus thing. And it makes you wonder if it had something to do with their environment, something else also in their environment that could have thrown up the signal where it was in their air that they were breathing. It just makes me wonder. I know that it isn't limited just by the droplets, that's for sure. We know that. So certain things go airborne. I think it's also been proven that most people have been exposed to it and didn't even know. They might have had some sniffles, might have taken a nap for a couple days, an hour nap for a couple days to recover. That's how I felt. But if you're healthy, we know that the healthier you are, the more we're bringing your cells in the healthy environment, the more you don't have to worry. This is my main point. Let's get right back to it. Why don't they teach? Hold on. Why don't they teach how to recreate the healthy environment through deep breathing? Here we go. That's where it's at right there. Through deep breathing and bouncing. Simple, easy things. I have somebody here who would like to share a little bit of her success story. And then I'd like to do that instant mass healing demo. I'll tell you what, let's do the instant mass healing demo first, and then we'll bring you on, Barbara, to tell your story about what some of this has done for you. And oh wait, it looks like you're ready to go now. Okay, let's do Barbara.
No, I can wait. Please go on, carry on.
Well, let's do this. You're here.
Okay.
Let's give you your story first.
All right. I want to begin by saying that when I had first contacted Dr. West, I was extremely toxic from the loss of a child. I had, just emotional trapped blood proteins, smoking and drinking. And I had this back pain that was horrific. I mean, literally, I was not able to get out of bed without stiffening, and the balls of my feet were hurting to touch the floors. And this had been something that had been going on prior to the loss of my son, but everything got worse due to not feeling well and just not taking care of myself. So I stayed in bed, depressed, and just became super toxic, very painful. And Dr. West says, do this. So what I did is I did this 21-second healing technique that blows the socks off anything I've seen a chiropractor ever do. And not trying to down chiropractors, I just want to say that. However, I don't think they know everything. So a lot of people might agree with that. But the great thing that happened was literally 21 seconds later, I have not ever had that pain back. But just the same, I can do that every day to myself in 21 seconds to keep it away. And it's like you just feel an instant, like I know I feel taller, straighter, and that my back feels aligned as if, but it's so painful and scary when you go to the chiropractor because they crack you. And I never really wanted to do that. So this is the number one go-to technique. I swear by it on my life, on my children's life. Yeah, this is it. So I hope everybody gives it a try and that you're able to see these amazing healings, because I've never felt better, and I'm 55 and I'm able to trot around like a pigeon. I can bend, move. I'm agile. I mean, I can do things most people my age cannot do. So with that being said, and there's other things. One was for my grandson. He had stage 4 kidney cancer, diagnosed 6 months after my son had passed. So they put him on heavy doses of chemotherapy. And my ex-husband was actually mad about this because he understands these things. And so I told him, I said, we have to stop this. They've eradicated his immune system twice now. And then the second time they did it, they were talking about having to do a bone marrow transplant on my 2-year-old little baby, or no, she was only like a year and a half, a tiny little baby girl, to help my grandson. And I reached out to Dr. West, and immediately, I could cry right now when I think of this because it's very emotional for me because of the fact that it worked. And I just said, Heavenly Father, I took some deep breaths in, activating my own power plants. And I said, Heavenly Father, perpetually bless the healing in my grandson's immune system to bring it back to healing. And you know what? I got this call, and this had been going on all day until I did this healing. Literally, I get a call within 30 minutes later, and his immune system's right. His numbers are rising. He's alive now and well. And when I tell him things that I learned from Dr. West, this little boy zeroes in. He hears me, and it's just amazing. So I can never thank Dr. West enough. He's been the most amazing person in my life. And wow. And when I really contacted him, I was so sad for a disease since I've been a child. And why do we have it? Why, is this happening to us? And why are so many people dying? And, when I met Dr. West, I was looking for these answers, and he gave me truth, like this amazing truth, because somewhere deep inside of me, I knew that it was out there. It was like, how was I ever going to find it? And you don't stop looking. You look for the answers. You get the real answers. And this is number one, stop shopping. I do everything he says to do. deep breathing every day. I'm also, guys, by the way, an Instacart shopper. I have recently lost a position, probably better for me. And I'm out and about and I'm serving people, helping them, and I feel wonderful. So I can't say it enough. Get on board, deep breathe, bounce, do the bouncing. The rebounders are amazing. What they can do for your overall fitness, balance, building bones, muscles. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. So yeah,
Thank
I guess
you.
yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you guys
Barbara.
for listening.
Appreciate that. Yeah, they also help stimulate stem cell production because most of those stem cells are in our bones, and bouncing stimulates the bones. So some of the techniques that I do help produce stem cells, and some of them are more advanced, much more advanced than just bouncing, like how I was able to help reattach a friend's right and left hemisphere of his brain after he was hit by a car. I was in New York and he was at Cedars-Sinai in Hollywood, which is an insurance-run hospital there. And they decided to pull the plug in 24 hours. So I broadcasted on Facebook, put my reputation on the line. And when they pulled the plug, he was breathing on his own. They didn't expect that. They said that would be absolutely impossible because the right and left hemispheres, the neurons that connected them, were severed. That means within 24 hours from New York to LA, I couldn't use bouncing. I couldn't use, couldn't be telling him what to do physically. Had about 130 people watch a video that I have in a membership area that is much more advanced in how to target everything from the head up. And after all the brain damage that's been happening from low oxygen levels and things like that, I think it's something everybody could use. But in general, we all have a set of lungs. We need to start deep breathing to help restore, help activate the lymphatic system, help start reestablishing the healthy environment throughout the whole system. And I have a special guest here who's with me that I like to use as a demonstration of what this next phase is, the instant mass healing demonstration for everyone who's listening, especially if you're live. And if you're listening to a replay, if you can tap into the timestamp, currently it's 12:52 Hawaii time, which I know it's 3:52 in California, PM, on the 30th of July, 2020. I have with me here, Kali Maya, if you'll come in here. I'd like to show, you got, I need to put you on a pedestal. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lower, we're gonna take this off of its stand here and just lower it. If you'll turn around, can I show people the back of the hips? What's going on with the hips here? I'm going to put my hands, we've done this before, we measured you earlier. If I put my hands here and here, you can see which one's high or low. This side's looking higher, right? By how much? Well, come look at my fingers. It's about this. This is about what it looks like. So this side's high and the right side's low. And how long has this been for you? How long is, yeah, well, and if you get chiropractically adjusted, they can help level them, but then as soon as you walk out, the muscle's contracting, pull them right back out again. So I'm not going to pop them in. I'm going to work with the life processes of the muscles, and it's their job to keep them straight, okay? But to do that, I'm going to turn on the endocrine glands, and they send energy through the neck and the hips and help line them up. So sound good? Similar to what, okay, it's similar to what we described with Barbara. So you can turn back around again. I'm going to go ahead and perform this instant mass healing demonstration now. And it's unspoken and it's unphysical. It's not something that I'm going to have to verbalize, but I have an audio series that gives it on a conscious level what most of the programming is. It's within an audio series called Discover Your Power Plants, the series. And we call the energy centers in the body power plants. They call them chakras in India or the 7 houses in China. But I like to speak English. So, and scientifically, we know they're the endocrine glands. So in just a few moments, if you'll take a deep breath, okay. So that was a instant mass healing demonstration technique, we transfer a lot more data subconsciously and spiritually than what the conscious mind is able to handle. So if you turn back around, let's see what's happened with the hips. What's happened here? Okay, they're perfectly straight. Can you see how straight, how level those are? So I think if we can help you, we can help just about anybody. And wow, thank you for being that example, Kalimaya. And I want to just, to wrap things up here, say if, oh yeah, come on in. Let's introduce you to Kalimaya better than this. So Kalimaya is teaching, she's a dance instructor here and a martial artist. She teaches, she's put together a program to help, you know, people develop themselves and their empowerment. Yeah, she does the stick fighting and poi poi ball, swords, fire dancing.
And just won 2 gold medal awards in the forms and weapons in Las Vegas. She's an amazing master.
Yeah, people can find her at mauiecovillage.com, I believe, right now. A little bit of information
and yes,
there.
I do validate about being, I call it physical culturist. Always be active. The more you move. The
And
better.
what's your chrono?
My what?
Will you share your chrono?
What do you mean?
Say your age.
No, it's
Say
not your age. It's
I'm
not your age.
striking on to be 72 in 18 days.
Incredible. Incredible.
And I want
Wow.
to since, you know,
So her chrono is
She's
72.
doing in Maui every
Yeah.
every 2
and
days.
yes,
So-
the stretching is very important.
She's active. That's active.
She, I tell you what, she'll give the young guys a run for their money when it comes to if they can keep up with her in her workouts here. So she does them a lot of times, like Wednesdays, Thursdays, sometimes Tuesdays. She does them at local parks here. Anyway,
One of these days we'll come share with you.
glad to share one of the other people who happen to be willing to show up as part of the demonstration, what we're doing. So a few more words just to wrap things up. I have a lot of other training. I'm going to start, the next class is a special deep breathing technique that, in my opinion, is the best technique to prevent pneumonia. That's also been a talk in the air, but it doesn't just do that. It's one that over the next couple of hours, we're going to be really dynamically sharing some of the practical application secrets of how to do this on a conscious level. What one of the very best deep breathing techniques is to really activate the lymphatics and expand lung capacity. I call it the power heal breathing technique. And you can learn about this next class. It's not going to be something that I'll just stream on Facebook or YouTube without without any requirement of passing through some gates to get to it. It's something you need to go to zeroddisease.com, or you can click on the links page from there. You'll see the events schedule from there, or you can go directly to events.zeroddisease.com to reach me in this next broadcast, where I'll be breaking down a technique that I've used that really has been effective in clearing any congestion in the lungs. It also activates lymphatics really well within the lungs, and cells dehydrating excess fluid. So in some cases they'll shrivel up, and that with COVID-19, you find that it's not a whole lot of fluid buildup. It's more of it's drier. There's still trapped blood proteins. There's still congestion, but when they shrivel up, it's closer to asthma, because the lung sacs are shriveling up, and asthma, right? It's same thing that happens to your skin and your hands and feet when you spend too much time in a pool or in the tub. They get the pruning effect, which literally suggests dehydration. And I'll say it again, cells dehydrate in excess fluid. The tub, the pruning effect there with the hands and feet is just an example of that. Why does that happen? We get into more detail on that in other programs. So So again, I hope you join me after, this presentation is only a very small part of a much bigger picture. If you like what you've heard, I invite you to join me for the next class beginning now. Okay, go there, don't hesitate. It's starting right now. I'm gonna have to end this show and I'll see you right there. And please go to, again, events.zerodisease.com. If you're hearing this on a replay, then you'll also have access to replays. Even if you go now, there are replays. There's one from last week that's there available right now. So then after this next class, there's one on mini trampolines called Rage for the Truth. You'll see the whole schedule at events.zerodisease.com and click on today's date and you'll go down to what we're doing today, Thursdays. So I'll see you there. All right, you guys, congratulations for taking another step out of the medical dark ages